Thank you for joining us. I'm Michael Miller. Our special guest today is Rafi Maldonado-Lopez, and you're the Managing Director of Sanctuary for the Arts. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we're seeing there's this renewed interest in the arts, whether it's an art that you're involved with or whether it's in books and in writers or in documentaries. We see there's a real interest here. And you're going to tell us a little bit about the Sanctuary of the Arts. But before we get to that, why do you do what you do? Why do you do this? Yes.
This is a calling. This is a calling. I mean, the arts, people talk about how transformative they are, but they really don't understand what that means. It's such a way to really better people's lives by the quality of what they're seeing, of how they're processing. And the best example for that is early education in the arts and how children thrive through the arts. And I've had the privilege of seeing children who literally have become just so much better as even citizens, they're involved socially, they're involved academically, they're involved artistically. It's a form of expression,
And we know that impacts your brain, the chemicals that are in your brain where people get more excited and they can, if you will, so often, I can see myself up there.
Yeah, and I think particularly as a former dancer myself, there's that what is called kinetic intelligence that dancing brings. And so that's a point where you feel so comfortable in your body. Yeah, it's one of Gardner's 9 intelligences. You feel intelligence called kinetic intelligence. Kinetic intelligence makes you feel very confident, so you become more social. You become more social, you go for things. You're less shy. I want to be that. I want to do that. And so I think that's one thing that artists have.
And when we put up what's going to happen, and this could be in Coral Gables, the end of the month. All right.
Exactly.
So why don't you tell us what's going to happen on the 29th, 30th, and 31st?
So this is a really special occasion because the Miami City Ballet Orchestra, under Gary Sheldon, he's been the conductor for 16 years. It started 40 years ago, but there was a lapse. And the orchestra has always been in the pit. So we've never seen the orchestra as the main attraction. And as a dancer, I can tell you that there's nothing more fulfilling than to dance to live music. And I'll explain. You know how some people, you yawn and then I yawn and then the next person, that transfer of energy, that, again, kinetic energy. When you're dancing with an orchestra, you can literally feel the energy of the musicians. So if the musicians are giving it all, you feel that through the music that's coming through. However, at the end of the night, only the conductor gets on stage and gets that bow, or the featured pianist or the featured violinist. And this day, this particular event, we're having all 35 musicians on stage. So this is a really special moment. It's never happened before.
So, and lots of young people don't quite understand that, about that energy that is there. And sometimes you can say that you're in the zone or you can feel the room and things are going well. And conversely, on the other end, when it's not so good, you can feel that. And this is, this isn't make-believe stuff. This is absolutely real, 100% real. And we know that the arts and music activates different parts of the brain.
Exactly.
So tell us about, again, so on the Sanctuary of the Arts in Coral Gables, people can go to their website when they see the QR code, they can take a picture that's going to take you right to, some tickets there.
Exactly.
And across the bottom of it, in case people are just listening, we have the website, and it is the website to order the tickets is, tell us.
sanctuaryofthearts.org. Come to that spot, get yourself subscribed, and you won't miss a show.
So getting back to having these 30-something musicians,
yes.
The orchestra up there.
Correct.
It must be pretty exciting for them, if you will, to come out of the pit, if you will, and be up there and to get that feedback.
There are many parts about this that are spectacular. So Sanctuary of the Arts is a building that was within the original design of Merrick, who designed Coral Gables. And Phineas Pace, the same architect, built the design for Sanctuary. Sanctuary of the Arts was first, for many years, First Church of Christ Scientists, whom Merrick's wife was, and now it's been rededicated as a concert hall. But here's the thing. The acoustics in this building by the orchestras who have been there, the Cleveland Orchestra, Alhambra Orchestra, now Miami City, they're telling us this is one of the most beautifully acoustically perfect halls in South Florida, which we've discovered. So you have 35 musicians on stage. You can sit anywhere in that room and not miss a note, which is, as you said, spectacular. Opening Sanctuary of the Arts in 2021, the reopening after pandemic, was Joshua Bell, of all people, violinist, and the Academy of St. Martin's in the Field. And it was very interesting because the musician came to me and said, this place has a basement, doesn't it? And I said, how do you know that? Because the floor resonates, which means there must be something under here. So musically, the hall is spectacular. It is spectacular. This orchestra is going to have the opportunity for people to see them firsthand, never seen before, and experience that, the most beautiful music they've heard.
When you're with other people that find it their passion or their calling, one feels that with them. You're there as this team, and you have that synergy, that energy that makes that happen. So for the young people that are listening and or watching, and they haven't yet figured out a passion of theirs and their calling, what were some of the clues when you said, hey, I like that? Tell us about that process until you could claim, hey, it was a calling.
So, I've always been very expressive. I need to express. There was no option for me then to constantly be engaged in, you're asking about me personally, yes. Yeah? To be engaged in activities. I was the one volunteering to, let's do the show for the senior citizens. Let's do the show for the kids. And I found my way figuring out that I really liked the opportunity to help people literally laugh and be entertained and escape their world for a little while. The arts really do allow that. There's been some, what can I say, some stereotypes about the art. Oh, it's too high art, ballet, for example. But I think we've come to terms now on how to break that, and we have things that now really attract the masses back into the ballet, into the orchestras. If you look at, what's going on with the opera, what's going on with the symphonies, even playing music from video games and stuff, I think that we're kind of coming to ourselves in a new way again, especially after the pandemic. We were kind of forced to figure that out. Personally, for me, I've had two choices. I've always worked as an artist, and I've also worked as I've always worked as a human services person also. At some point in my life, I was actually a operations manager for Catholic Charities in the morning, and at night I was dancing on stage, running around in my tights. And it was a way of serving the community physically and metaphysically. And to this day, it's kind of what I do.
And there's a poem, I forget who said it, there's no reason, no purpose for being small, because when you do those things that you want to do, you subconsciously give other people the right and the opportunity for them to also do that. So when you're up on stage and when the orchestra is there playing, there's somebody sitting in that audience go, look at them. Maybe I can do that, whatever that happens to be.
Right.
And when was there a moment in your life as you were growing up and when you said, I like that. I could do that too. Do you remember when that was?
I was there. I would knock on every door I could. As a young person, I knew I wanted to be in the theater. The theater is literally vocational. I remember the first time in my fifth grade play, and I walked out and I got this massive round of applause, and I'm like, I like this.
There it is.
I like this. It was, it was a small school musical. I think it was The Sound of Music. And I remember from that day, I said, no, I have to be in the arts. I don't care if I'm an actor, I'm a dancer, I'm a singer, but I need to be on stage.
So right now you're the managing director. So tell us what that really means and what you do and some of your responsibilities.
So here's the thing. I've been in Miami now since 2003. So I think I'm from Miami now. I came here to take a job as faculty and development officer for New World School of the Arts in downtown. While I was there a year later, I was also teaching at Miami City Ballet, Edward Villela picked me out and gave me a task over there. So I was teaching music theater kids
When you
jazz.
say he picked you out,
Yes.
explain that.
So Edward knew that I had been a ballet dancer, and he knew that I was teaching contemporary and jazz and modern. And one of the things for a dancer that's trained in ballet is very hard is to the ability to change into jazz and contemporary and stuff. And with the time that I was being trained, it was one or the other. So as time passed, companies like Miami City Ballet were bringing in new choreographers. We're bringing in Twyla Tharp. We're bringing in Paul Taylor, who have other idiomatic expressions physically, you know? And Edward said something to me which is really interesting. He said, you know, when ballet dancers do contemporary or modern or jazz, it's like someone with an accent speaking to you. You understand everything they're saying, but it's still not a natural environment. The voice isn't placed. He said, so I want you to help me create within the school, which we started at the school, a program. So when they dance, whatever they dance, it seems that that's their natural environment, right?
And you were tasked in doing that.
That I was.
What was that
tasked.
like for you when you go, oh my God, you got this world famous ballet dancer, right?
Yeah.
That's now come to you and said, let's work together.
It was amazing because the way I met Edward the first time was in Humanities 101 when I'm reading my humanities book, and it's
Like this young man over here who just graduated up. So I remember doing that too.
Yeah.
Way to go. And so,
And I knew Edward for his fame being a Balanchine, you know, one of the I don't know how many pieces Balanchine created just for him. So when I met him, it happened to be a mutual acquaintance who was already teaching there and said, Edward, I've got the guy for you. And he pulls me out, and I'll never forget. People say don't meet your heroes, but that's not true. I had the best time. And we did it. I mean, literally at the point where any choreographer would came. I remember the exact moment he hired a famous choreographer, Nacho Duato, who was the artistic director of the National Company of Spain, then in Russia. And, you know, the choreographers come and they do the auditions and they do their first cast. And Edward comes over here, gives me the big hug, and he goes, Rafi, we did it. I said, what? He goes, the entire first cast came from those school kids that you trained over there.
That's terrific.
It was great. It was great.
It's wonderful. Can we, and Sonny, can we put up the three guys there? There we go. Perfect. And while we're talking, people can go look up these guys, and when they and the young lady.
This is really wonderful because there's a different relationship also. The orchestra. Gary is probably one of the most beloved people there. Francisco, for many years, was the company pianist. So every day he was there sweating along with those dancers and helping them build. His music is amazing in his own right. He's a renowned pianist. May is spectacular. You know, they say music can take you to heaven. This woman has such mastery over this instrument, this violin. I've heard her play, and the world just kind of disappeared around me, you know. And that's not a cliche. I think that, again, these musicians, they're around dancers that are so physical that I think that their way of performing, when you see Francisco, it's like he's dancing on those keys. He's so physical.
And dancers are athletes. Some people don't understand that.
Completely.
But you have to really be fit, you have to have huge stamina, be able to eat less, all right?
Exactly.
Dance around like that. And it's pretty consistent. As far as that, and let's talk about the years that the musicians have put in to get to that point where they're playing.
So that's really wonderful. You know, another thing about this orchestra, the majority, they're all professional musicians. Many of them have come here from South Florida. So, to your question, I went to Boston Conservatory for part of my dance career. And it was amazing to come into a school where the musicians and the dancers and the artists and the actors are everybody in one place. Musicians had these small rehearsal rooms that were probably 6 by 6, all soundproof, and would sign in no less than 4-hour rehearsal periods to learn the same piece. And then pianists would be, the time investment for artists is amazing. You know, dancers go from 9 in the morning to 6 at night, 5 days a week plus performances. Musicians are exactly the same. They go until that piece is right, they will not let it go.
Okay, so I happen to remember getting back to the Sanctuary of the Arts and what you do. So tell us a little bit more about what you do and the purpose of the Sanctuary of the Arts.
So Sanctuary of the Arts is the vision of Mike and Margaret Itzen, who are major, major philanthropists, supporters of the arts. And I don't mean philanthropists in money. I mean philanthropists in generosity, of caring, of taking their time to help organizations grow. And that's different because you can write a check or you can really be invested in the product of that organization. And they came upon Sanctuary and literally, I believe they rescued it because it had been dormant for over a decade. It sits right in the heart of downtown Coral Gables. And I had known Mike, being the president of the ballet for a number of years, of the board of directors. He and I had crossed paths. And when he got Sanctuary, he called me up and he said, "Hey, Rafi, what do you think about this over here?" And I said, "Well, I have a few ideas we could do." Pandemic hit, so we, kind of paused. And in 20, he came back and he's like, "Hey, this is going on over here." I had seen the need for a space for artists to thrive. What I mean is Sanctuary of the Arts is a beautiful space. It's an affordable space compared to the cost of renting the Arts Center or the Fillmore. Organizations don't have that kind of money, really, So we saw ourselves as, how has a venue become from important to necessary? What I mean is when we started and we opened up our doors that first year, maybe 14 performances from April through December. This year, we're past 70. We're not even done. So what we've done is try to work with organizations and able to help them survive. We've become a lifeline in a way. We're not very big. We're 300 seats. So we're not talking about making $50,000 in profit. But what we are is trying to put ourselves out there. So now that we don't have the Gusman, and now that we have the Miami-Dade County Auditorium on a hiatus for a while, the tower isn't very big, the Kubik. We're trying to fit a space so everyone can continue their audiences, can continue. That's really a spectacular, mission for us. So we are constantly going out there. And just to mention, I do believe that something like this performance, there be two pieces of dance there. So Natalia Arja, who's a principal for Miami City Ballet, and Rui Cruz, also from Miami City Ballet, are going to do a pas de deux there. And two dancers from Sanctuary, because we train dancers as well, Tatiana Mursuli and Pedro, I have to get Pedro's last name, will be doing also an excerpt from Romeo and Juliet, just to show the synergy. I have this theory that I'm probably going to write for your paper, that I believe that the same way we have three primary colors, the arts has three primary entrances, which is music, nonverbal, dance, nonverbal, and art, nonverbal. And you take those three things and you find those in a ballet. So I think that I'm trying through with Mike, with Margaret, to re-educate and create awareness, about how important it is to have a thriving cultural community. And just overhead, you have an artist-rich neighborhood. What happens? You have higher real estate value. Boom, right away. The artists come in, real estate goes up. 2, you have safer neighborhoods. So do you need more money for the police or do you want safer neighborhoods? You have higher academic progress as well. So you have so many things, increased foot traffic, higher retail sales, more transportation. So I'm trying to through Sanctuary, make sure that we document how important it is. As I mentioned, people who have come, we have 27,000 subscribers, not just people we sent out stuff to. Like you said, people are seeing that there's a need for the art. we also feel the need to make sure that everyone is represented on that stage. So luckily, with the city, we've been able to work with all of the consulates. We've had events from Paraguay, from Peru, from Mexico, from Chile, Argentina. We just keep doing stuff to make sure that everyone feels represented there. And it's a space that literally is filling a gap right now. I mean,
there's an old saying that nature abhors a vacuum.
Yes.
So you got to get in that space.
Exactly.
And if you will, let your presence be known. And as I was saying earlier, I'm beginning to sense that. All right, it's just been over the last year or two, and I'm seeing it. And we used to have a lot of musicians that would come in and want to do stuff. We had 2 flamenco dancers in the back, in an area about this big, and then we have an opera singer and a guitarist.
Exactly.
All in this kind of space right here. And there were 12 people in this little room. And I stepped out. I said, listen, I'm the one that knows the least about this. I'm going to go watch it at communitynewspapers.com. I said, so make sure that we can see them and hear them. And I saw the joy in their faces that they were on stage, if you will, right? And doing that, and what a pleasure it was and to see that. So we're beginning to see that more and more often. And recently, we had Mitch Kaplan from obviously one of our neighbors over there. We had the Javier Betancourt, who started a book club. We have more people coming in. We had the 4th generation of Wolfson, Mitchell Wolfson's family that was here. What a thrill it was to be there. And a little shout out to the Wolfson Archives, where they have a lot of events over all the years. And they went, my father used to be on Channel 7. They went and they found the clip and they gave it to me from 1960.
Wow.
And I remember the clip. I hate to say how many years ago that was, but I remember it. And as soon as I saw it, it took me right back there. And so there's that part of the brain that wants to be stimulated like
exactly.
that. And so my hat's off to you and to all the supporters and to Mike and his family for being very active in that. So one of the things you mentioned, so people can give money, but we want more than that. We want to see if we can capture their hearts so they're involved, so their ideas come forth and they can express it where people can look at it and say, hey, that's a great idea.
I agree. I think that it's not a word of giving. I think it's investing. And you want people who invest to invest more with themselves. It's interesting because you can invest in someone's life so well because where the journey starts for a lot of these musicians is they're 3, 4, 5. At Sanctuary of the Arts, we have a satellite in at the McFarland Historic Neighborhood in Little Bahamas. At St. Mary's, we have another church, and we have free violin lessons for kids. And it's one of our partners called Teeny Violini. And Teeny Violini, managed by Portia Dunkley, who also has New Cannon Chamber Collective, which is a major league black and brown orchestra. So these little kids have a concert at the end of their performances and stuff. And Portia has been bringing people to not just invest in the program, but the journey from that 4 and 5-year-old kid, which now she lets the parents also grab a violin and take the class with them, to the fruition of coming to one of the best orchestras in South Florida, to the Miami City Ballet Orchestra. So I think that the more we get people to understand that it's not just, throwing some money into a basket or anything, but that you're really creating change, really transforming something that is going to start with you giving them the opportunity to pursue that dream,
For us old timers that remember Ruth Greenfield.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And she was in the 50s. She created, with help, I think, the first integrated, I think it was dancing, if I remember right. And I remember her fondly because my parents were friends with theirs. And in the small world it is, my son was looking for a house to buy recently. And he starts telling me about the house. And I said, where is it? He starts telling me. And he says, the lady that owned it, her name was Ruth. I said, Greenfield? He goes, how did you know that? I said, because you were describing it. And then I went on the line. I said, this is her right here. Your great-grandfather was involved with her. And anyway, so there are people that step out and step up and bring forth this good stuff so that these kids, these people, and adults can grow more with that. So my hat's off to you, especially for those little kids that may look at it and go, I want to do that. Because they may not continue in it, but they were certainly going to remember it. And it certainly inspires people. And whether it's at the local school where they get them up on stage and they do poems, or whether they're playing guitar or the violin. So here it is. We got just a couple minutes left, and I'm sure you've had a lot of mentors and people that have helped you along your way. Why don't you start thinking about them? And we have which camera can you look into? This one right over here. Why don't you look right in the camera, and why don't you talk to them whether they're still with us or not, and tell them how much if it is so, how much you appreciate them.
Well, my people, many of them are not here. They've gone. I have to tell you, though, why I became a dancer. So I had the opportunity while going through high school of loving music and singing and dancing and acting, and I thought I was going to be a music theater actor. So I auditioned. I got into Tisch School of the Arts. I was so happy. I was going to be a music theater. But Tisch did something that was interesting. They outsourced some of their training. And my dancing was outsourced to the Joffrey Ballet. And so I was in a class doing my class, and Mr. Joffrey himself, Mr. Bob Joffrey.
Right up there and talk to him.
He comes over and he goes, "What's your name?" And I said, "Oh, I'm Rafi." He goes, "And what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm going to be a music theater person." He goes, "No, you're not." He goes, "You can be an actor and sing when you're 100, but you can only be a dancer for so long. So forget about all that and just stick to dance. Be a dancer." And that was it. I went straight to dance. I've been so fortunate to be able to dance in so many places. And I have to tell you, I had a lot of encouragement from literally everyone in my family. I'm the only performing artist. We have producers in the family, big time producers, but on stage it would be me. So it was, he was big. And then I have to tell you, the other one was Edward Villela, who was, he was a guy's guy, say it as it is. And he just said, do it. You know, I remember the day he gave me the company to choreograph on.
So here it is, just that moment, that one moment that you spent with these people that encouraged you, that made all the difference. So we know sometimes we need a pat on the back or a hand up, not a hand out, but a hand up to be able to help people, because we never know what kind of impact it's going to do. But what we do know is those little kids are watching us all the time.
All the time.
So again, congratulations to you on making Sanctuary of the Arts very productive and effective. And folks, you can buy a ticket with the QR code that's up there, or you can go to their website, which is sanctuaryofthearts.org. And that's on May 29th, May 30th and 31st. And the 31st. It's coming up in a couple weeks.
Perfect.
Rafi,
yes.
thank you so much for being here.
You.
Appreciate it. Zoni, thank you very much. And there's Nestor over there. Hey, let's look at this camera right over here. All right. This one right over here. Folks, my brother Grant and I subscribe to the Disney rule, which is when you hug someone, don't stop until they do. Have a great day. Bye.
You want to launch a podcast, but you got no clue how or where? C News TV makes it easy. Choose from one of our 4 podcast studios, Studio A, B, C, or D. We provide the professional space, the equipment, the crew, the know-how, and even a host if you need one. Book a studio now at sales@cnews.net.